And the 5D is a real place. It can be described as like when you have an OBE, right? Or when you dream, it's almost like a dream world. But when you go there, it'll be real, like me and you, like here. But it'll be a different vibrational level, a different frequency. So if you was to go from that back to here, you would seem like a ghost to everyone here, or a spirit or something. But to us, we would be the same vibration. We would be like this, like me and you. So it's a perspective thing. And December 23rd, 2008, it was midday, and it was a flying saucer. It was plain as day. It was dome, and then it just went to a flat bottom, like flat bottom, and then dome. I started seeing crafts, right? I started seeing saucers, light orbs, all kinds of stuff. And I still wasn't completely spiritual then, but I was always like open-minded, and I was excited. So I would spend hours on end out there recording these things, camping out in the bushes. And I didn't understand at that point that I could communicate with him with my mind. But I captured so much stuff back in the day. Like the Galactic Federation has these mindsets of the oneness, the universal consciousness, and this is what they go by. This is how they function. They don't see death as like we do. Death is not real. Death is only a shift into another form or another body, and they do have soul transference technology. So,
growing to the point where it's just an inevitable, catastrophic or not, kind of disclosure that happens, because it's kind of obvious now that, I think that we're being visited by intelligent beings.
It's almost like there's an emissary program. They're emissaries to us. And when we're open to them and we accept them, okay, and we show that our intent is pure, that we end up becoming their emissaries as well. It's not a one-way street. It's both ways. So, I ask myself when I'm talking.
I've heard of people doing out-of-body experiences, like, for example, in their house, and then they were making plans to add like rooms on and stuff like that. And then when they were projecting out of their body, they could actually walk in those rooms that they had already preset to build. Like they had made plans and intentions towards.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't hear that.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so going off of that notion, like if you're like projecting out where you're not just 3D like reality, but like these like 4D aspect, there might be a lot more of that. What you set your intention or what like direction you're wanting to go, like things just kind of go manifest.
This is Christian with the Transcendence Podcast. Right now we're streaming live on TikTok, but for the people who watch this later, this is going to go up on YouTube. And we have some familiar faces here with GreyDruid and my friend John from We Are One Consciousness, and a very special guest, Nebula. Thanks for hopping on, Nebula, from TikTok. And today we're just going to go over lots of things, consciousness, everything. But we want to start off with how you got into this. How did this start for you? Everybody has their own origin story in the spiritual awakening journey, and what has brought you into this world?
So let's start from the beginning, shall we? So when I was little, I always known that like there was some underlining code or something under reality, and I couldn't pinpoint it. I never could pinpoint it when I was a child, and I knew, like, I felt like I didn't belong, here on Earth, but I felt like I was, here to do something. But as time went on, I developed my abilities. I didn't understand how far they would go when I was younger. And I always had information coming in, extraordinary devices of things that can't be built with today's technology. Like through high school, I was just coming up with photon fusion reactors, anti-gravity stuff, and just wrapping copper wire around crystals. I was fascinated with that before I even became spiritual. As I got older, it was like something deep down in my mind. I knew there was something to do with that. And I was always fascinated with spinning magnets or spinning magnetic fields too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like it's deep rooted into who I am, because all the information was there from all my past lives. This is not my first go around here on Earth. And this is why I'm here talking to you guys, making another movement of helping people realize the truth. And that's what I'm here to do again.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, thanks for hopping on. We do know that you also have live streams where you're catching UFOs showing up, which I find really fascinating. That's awesome. I wish I had that set up. But tell us a little bit about that. And then it's open for anyone to just jump in or ask questions or bring anything. It could be open-ended. Cool goblet.
That's right. Thank you. It was a present from my girlfriend.
That's pretty awesome.
Awesome.
So
I just have to
so
say
the-
that I've actually witnessed live that Nebula was doing, to where multiple craft were shown in the sky, and I was amazed. That was the first time I've actually seen someone do a CE5 and actually have them show up. And the positive energy that Nebula was putting out during that time was just perfect. And I believe that they were able to focus in on that positive energy that Nebula was putting out, and the viewers, for that matter, to bring these craft to show themselves. It was amazing. But I'm sorry, Nebula, please continue.
No, you're fine. Thank you so much. Yeah, I do live CE5s on my TikTok, and it's been an experience. So as I was growing up, like when I moved to Tennessee, like it was 15, 16 years ago, 2008. I think it was like almost 16 years now. I started seeing crafts, right? I started seeing saucers, light orbs, all kinds of stuff. And I still wasn't completely spiritual then, but I was always like open minded, and I was excited. So I would spend hours on end out there recording these things, camping out in the bushes. And I didn't understand at that point that I could communicate with them with my mind. But I captured so much stuff back in the day, like, oh my gosh, way more stuff than I've actually captured so far. So I'm catching up to it slightly, but yeah. I think one of the most profound encounters that I ever had here in East Tennessee when I moved here was December 23rd, 2008. It was midday, and it was a flying saucer. It was plain as day. It was dome, and then it just went to a flat bottom and then dome.
Cool.
And it was about, I'd say, 300 feet away. Yeah, it's about 300
That's
feet.
close.
Yeah.
That's really close.
Yeah. And it was above the trees. And I was actually outside with my camera on my tripod. I was using a method of blocking the sun with trees and stuff to see things near the sun. That's another cool method you can do to see UFOs, by the way. But I was doing that with my camera on my tripod. And I look over and I'm like, oh my God. Time felt like it froze, like it was surreal. And I took a breath, and then I was like, phew, and I turned the camera sideways, and it was gone like a blink of an eye. It was crazy.
I actually saw this. I have to see I only saw a clip of it on TikTok. I sent it to you, Druid, but it was actually taken down. I think I tried to send it to you too, John, but I don't know why it was taken down. But the video's on YouTube. If I find it, I'll send it to all of you if you want to see it. But this interview, one guy said, one like amateur camera guy is figuring out a way to, and I want to see if this is true, to film UFOs that are kind of unseen, that are always flying around. And they were, the 3D glasses that we have, the blue and the red, the old ones, that he would layer on top of each other. You heard of that?
That video is from what is it? New Thinking Aloud.
Yes. You saw it?
Yeah. I watched that whole episode. It was super, super interesting. I actually, to go on that note, I actually chatted with Chase, and he confirmed he's heard of others that have done similar things in different ways, and they're able to see on the spectrum. That's why the DoD and other, the Air Force have, they're not just tracking these UAPs with, one array of, sightings,
like night vision.
They're doing a full broad spectrum analysis of these UAPs and how they're able to be viewed or not viewed.
Yeah, you did send me a video that had it showed regular footage, and then it showed like the night vision footage compared. Like he was filming it in both, and you could only see this craft moving around like in night vision, but in like regular or infrared. Excuse me, I said night vision. Infrared.
Yeah.
You could only see it in infrared, but you couldn't see it with the regular camera.
Exactly.
It's like those glasses that I don't know the technical name for the chemical that they were using.
The cyanide.
Yes, that are, you can see auras while wearing them. You're told not to look in the direct source of light because it can burn your eyes, damage your eyes. But yeah, I've seen some pretty fantastic things with those as well. And apparently the military was trying to use them, but the troops were seeing things, and so they went to the green instead. And it's just interesting. But I noticed that Nebula has some of those night vision cameras and such out there, or infrared. I'm sorry if I'm mistaken on that. And just even without seeing any UAPs, UFOs, just to see all the stars and planets and such, it's just amazing. I mean, if for nothing else, it's worth doing that. And I'm looking to do that here at home eventually.
And I think that sale is still going on for that camera. And I'm not a spokesperson for that. This is not a sales pitch.
Yeah, I definitely want to get like a better camera, like DSLR type. I can't right now, but I definitely want one.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So on that note of seeing things like with altered cameras and altered lenses and stuff, back in the day, I had a little cheap webcam. And what I did was I took it apart and I took the infrared filter off of it and I had it in my window. And I hooked it up to a motion detection software, and I captured many, many UFOs, saucers. I've captured metallic orbs like zipping by. It would capture like a fraction of a second. It was a really nice program, a really nice camera setup. But yeah,
that's pretty cool. Have you ever had any out of body experiences or any visitation experiences, like on a one-on-one level?
Definitely, yes. I've recently, I think it was like last month, I had 3 or 4 OBEs, and I've had many dreams this year, started this year, with alien contact. Before that, I've only had alien contact maybe once or twice in a dream, but it seems to be occurring more and more lately. And I've been calling out to them and saying, communion, I want to talk. If you have any information to give me to share with the world, please come to me. So.
Yeah, I've shared in previous episodes like some of my experiences, and a druid as well has had some of those, and I don't think it's coincidence that we've all, and even John also has had his experiences. I don't think it's coincidence that we're all having these experiences, and it's just growing. And now, with the whole UFO in the mainstream now it's like taken more seriously, which is cool. And I think it's just going to keep growing to the point where it's just an inevitable, catastrophic or not, kind of disclosure that happens, because it's kind of obvious now that, I think that we're being visited
That's
by
right.
intelligent beings. So.
It's almost like there's an emissary program. I mean, not to make it sound hokey to people that might not understand it, but they're emissaries. They're emissaries to us, and and when we're open to them and we accept them, okay, and we show that our intent is pure, that we end up becoming their emissaries as well. It's not a one-way street. It's both ways. So, I ask myself when I'm talking to my entity group, I ask them, I ask myself, what do I want my message to be to them as well? Do I choose to come in peace and love, a universal love? Do I wish to meet them as much as I can in this 3D form on their level of consciousness and being one with them? Or am I going to take the route that many others have, and that is of war and destruction? Well, my method is for love, understanding, universal consciousness, and it brings about a lot of positivity, not just to myself, but to the world around me. And once we open our eyes to those things, since I know that all 4 of us here have, amazing things happen. And you start realizing that it's not a them and us. We're one, but you also realize all the magic within the universe. And so I wanted to ask Nebula, if you don't mind, Neb, if you could tell us a little bit more about the Galactic Federation, because I'm not very well schooled in this, and I was just curious if anything that I've said may resonate with the Galactic Federation.
Yes, I was going to interject, but thank you. I was about to say, yes, the Federation, the Galactic Federation, has these mindsets of the oneness, the universal consciousness, and this is what they go by. This is how they function. They don't see death as like we do. Death is not real. Death is only a shift into another form or another body. And they do have soul transference technology. So they can grow bodies and have them waiting, and then you could just go into another body. But if you don't have that lined up, you will get reincarnated somewhere else, or or wherever you want to go. But yeah, the Federation, I think it's at least somewhere between almost 200 to 300 different civilizations, could be more. They are very peaceful, and they try to protect Earth as much as they can. They do a really great job, and I really am thankful for them. I tell them all the time. And so if a new species was to come into Earth and like they just found us and they would try to do something, the Federation would intervene and tell them, this planet's under protection, you can't do anything, and we'll have to take you down. So yeah, but yeah, it's the one consciousness. That's their law. That's their way of thinking, and it's beautiful. It is the only outcome, I think, that is inevitable in any intelligent race. Once you get to a certain point, it's like you can only go look further out into the universe so far until you just look inward and you're like, oh my God, I am the universe. I am everything. We're all one. It's an inevitable conclusion.
Yeah, that's where my research has taken me, because I always believed that we weren't alone or anything like that. I always just had that, I just knew. And then one day I had a very strange dream. And for those that don't know me or anything like that, I've had like prophetic dreams. I've had mediumship capabilities. I've had that happen. I've had contacts through dreams. I've had weird experiences where I felt like I was actually being lifted up out of bed. Recently, me and John even got into dowsing rods recently, and we were asking questions and we're actually answering. And I asked, because you kind of want to know, did that really happen, or am I making this shit up? Am I crazy? And they were saying yes, that did actually happen. And but my research after this weird dream, it was like I had a download. I don't know how else to explain it, to look up near-death experiences, and that's what took me off. And I started finding all the answers I ever had questions to. I'm like, all these millions of people like sharing their NDEs, and they're not all American. Some, they're translated into English, and they're saying the same things that people are saying in America, who are saying in England or wherever. And that led to hypnotherapy cases, people getting past life regression, saying the same information that near-death experiencers are sharing. And that led to abductees being regressed, like Dolores Cannon and stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, how is it possible that near-death experiencers are sharing the same information that abductees are sharing, that like even the same, that people don't have an NDE, but they just get a past life regression. They're all sharing the same information. And then we have channelers and stuff, Law of One, Bashar, Wendy Kennedy, all of these other greats out there. There's so many that I can't even remember all of their names, but and they're saying that same centralized message. And then once somebody has an NDE and they leave their body, they come to that universal truth of we're all actually connected. We're not actually separate. And that when you hurt someone else, you're really hurting yourself, and it's not out of punishment. And for those people who are watching who don't really understand this, when somebody has a near-death experience, not everyone goes through this part, but a lot of people do. They'll have what's called a life review. Some people, it's kind of where you heard of the life flashing before your eyes, but it's more than that. It's like you get to experience all the choices that you made, all the consequences of the choices that you made, positive or negative, even your thoughts. And they're shown that thoughts are also energy, and that energy affects others, even intentionally and unintentionally, even when you keep it to yourself. Like, let's say you hate somebody and you're like, screw that person or whatever, you get to see how that thought gets to affect and go out into the field and affects them. And if you hit someone or you punch them, you hurt them in any way, mental, physical, you get to literally become that person And that's when they're given the awareness in the NDE that, oh, I am them. So they usually come back, especially people who are more self-serving after having such an experience. They come back more humble, more loving, more of a family person if they weren't a family person before, less materialistic. And even some of them have even talked about whether we're alone in the universe. And they were shown on the other side that we are not alone in the universe, and that the universe is infinite, and that we're all a part of each other. And we're here to learn how to love in Earth School. But just to sum that up for anyone who's never seen me before, but that's where brought me into this.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'd like to share an OBE that I had recently. So I chose my destination before I went to bed this time, and I'll tell you the destination after I tell you what happened, because it's better that way, I think. So it felt like I was in another body. I was in a white room, and I was trying to get up off of this slab table, and I was just like trying to get up, like lean over, and then I kept like popping back into this body, and I was leaning over, and I was just like going back and forth, and then it was over. But my destination was the Federation ship, was one of the Federation motherships, and so it made me question a few things about me. And I'm like, am I like broadcasting from a body up there in like a stasis field or something? I don't know. Like,
I've heard of that. I've heard of that, actually.
Really?
Yeah, in Galactic Messages, it was a show on Gaia where the being talking to the person who's asking questions, I don't know if it's true or not, but they said, and it sounds exactly what you just described, that some higher dimensional beings who come here to help Earth are in stasis, and they are asleep, so to speak. And when they go to sleep, they're here, and they're born and they have a life, and but that's one area that I heard that. So that is interesting that you said that.
Wow. Well, thank you for thank you for that. So my origins, actually, I have had visions and meditations that I am an angelic being from a higher dimension, and I came here to help humanity. I joined the Federation up there, in the spiritual form or the higher dimensional form. And if I'm like in a body up there, that would make sense that I'm broadcasting down here, just and I think it's a fractal experience as well. I think I have multiple different versions of me running around. Most of them are up there, maybe two other ones down here, but yeah.
Yeah, and the soul, from my understanding, is multidimensional. So it's we all have simultaneous. This is all coming from the NDEs and also regression sessions and hypnotherapy. But that the soul is infinite, so it can experience other realities simultaneously to the one that we're currently experiencing. Or like when we're here, it seems like, oh, this is the only life I'm living. This is it. And then when I go, but right now, like literally right now, there's another version of you and another version of me doing other things, and it's infinite. So it goes on and on and on and on and on forever.
That's right.
As I understand it.
That's right, because time is not linear; it's fluid. Sorry.
No. Yeah.
No. I don't know. That just happens, I mean, when we're living together.
No, it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, it's like time is not linear. It's an ocean. That's why it's all happening at the same time. It's an ocean. You can go to any point. That's why I've been contacted by past versions of myself, or it's like past, yeah.
It's for us to understand. Yeah, I get what you mean when you say that. I say the same thing, and I stop myself too, because I'm like,
it's just the easier.
Or even future versions.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like your higher self on that ship could be your future version of yourself, kind of thing. And like Bashar, even Daryl Anka has said that Bashar coming through, talking through him is his future version of himself. But that's why that communication can take place, because it is him, so to speak.
Exactly. So do y'all have any questions for me?
I do. I do, Nebula. And I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but I noticed that
no, it's all good.
When I watch you interact, that you always I think that one of your natural talents, whether you're broadcasting from a mothership or anything, is your voice, is your singing, and that always seems to bring not just a positive effect on the entities that you're trying to contact within the Federation or others, but to your viewers as well. I always find it very pleasurable and very nice. And I am hoping that at some point in time, doesn't have to be now, but at some point in time during this, that you could go ahead and channel your artistic singing talent for everybody to hear and observe. I did see one stream that you had with a gentleman that was playing music, and you were kind of going, kind of working with each other in a collaboration. And I apologize, I can't remember who that individual was, but it was very good as well. So just to say, you can also do it on the fly with good talent. And so what I want to ask with all of that being said, is when did you first come to the realization that your voice and your intent with your voice was able to be such a great communication with them?
That's a good question. So, I've always loved singing, right? I've been in show choir. I just love singing. I've had vocal training before, and and I think it was middle school. So I've always been a vocal person and all that, but I never made that connection to source yet, and then sang the right way. So it was probably is when I started my TikTok, probably about a year ago, or maybe a year and a half ago now. I right before or I think it was around the same time I started live, I just started singing, and I made that connection, and it was just like it started flowing out of me, and then all of these memories came back. I'm like, oh my God, I've had this inside of me this whole time. And it makes so much sense to be able to sing like this. And I have there's different dialects, and it opened up so many doors.
And it's due to vibration. It's the positive vibration of the singing, of the vocalization, and musical instruments as well. Which is why, even though I'm not a singer, I will just by myself or something like that, as most people do. Playing music in the background while meditating or just trying to focus on communication and raising that frequency has a significant effect. It definitely attracts, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just kind of a beacon that goes off. And with
Exactly.
that coupled with ourselves being of pure intent and thought, we become a beacon as well for that communication. And that's because we are communicating again in another form of ourselves. Okay. And so due to the vibration, and when I say our own form of ourselves, is that it's my understanding, and I'm not sure if the Galactic Federation talks about this, and if they do, if you can go ahead and confirm or deny that, that we are all dancing thoughts of the Creator, as Ra puts it. Okay, and we are experiencing what we experience so the universe can learn about itself. The universe as a whole, whether dimensionally or densities, is trying to learn about itself. And so we as individuals, if we think of ourselves as individuals through separation, always see ourselves as separate. But think of it this way: if we're all drops of water and we come together as one in like a river of consciousness, okay, we'll be able to understand ourselves as a whole and help the universe understand itself at the same time. And that's how we can progress to become back to one with the source, with the Creator. Has the Galactic Federation mentioned anything of the sort to you about that?
Not directly, no, but it's just it's knowledge that's up there that once you get to that point, you just know that it's true and that it's real. I mean, everything is connected. I've channeled information, and it goes along with my theory of everything, which I'll be talking hopefully soon to a panel of other quantum scientists about it. But it connects spirituality and quantum mechanics and all of that. But it states that it's simply the fact that we are a dream. This is a dream within a dream within a dream for infinity in all directions. We are consciousness experiencing itself. It's a big play. It's a big, beautiful play for us to understand ourselves, to have experience, to love ourselves. It's more than just learning from ourselves. It's being just being alive and just having adventures and fun and then this moments of pure joy and just it's amazing. I can't express it with words.
I applaud you.
And
Thank you.
thank you. And what about you, Dan? You have any questions? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for sharing your thoughts so far. And again, Nebula, thank you so much for coming on here and talking with all of us. So I did have one particular question, and this is something that I've been noticing that a lot more people were as we go through this year, and we've had a lot more people engage with the UAP topic. It seems to be. I just wanted to know: have you seen on your side, and like the groups that you interact with or people that come on, have you seen an increase of awareness about the the UAP, NHI, and consciousness aspect, besides just it being about little green men landing on the the world, the planet, which is what seems to kind of be everyone's initial reaction, and then like the more and more people get in, the more they realize like, oh wait, this is about consciousness and spirituality, and this is so much more than just the initial men from Mars type thing.
That's right. I've was that it? Sorry.
Yeah, so I was just wanting
Okay.
to know. Yeah, that was a question.
Okay, so I've had people contact me in the TikTok DMs telling me that they've had experiences now, and like they're beginning to go inward and become awakened because of this stuff. But so yes, the answer is yes. And somebody at work that I've talked to before about aliens and stuff, they started to feel it and they started to look into it more, and now he's having his own spiritual awakening, and I am able to help him at work and like help feed and flourish that in at his own pace. And I love it so much, and it's just only a matter of time before everyone else catches up and just realizes the truth that's always been there.
Yeah.
Right. It's always been there, and that's the key thing about this. That is a pendulum pendulum coming back across is like people assuming that, oh, ETs are out there, they crash landed here, but no, the reality is that they've always been here, and they've always been alongside of us. I've had a lot of really good conversations with different people. Again, last episode when we just posted on Chris's channel with talking with Chase, he had some really awesome thoughts on just being a engineer and having friends in the DoD and other things like that. Like he's had information that he has gotten from various people, and also everyone he's talking to that are more in kind of the academic or kind of more of a scientific minded, they're realizing the consciousness aspect, and that's like ultimately the ultimate goal is non-local consciousness, oneness, us all working together. That's kind of the um that's the area where everyone's landing, whether they're more spiritual or logical. Like that's kind of the path that everyone eventually gets to, which is really, really fascinating.
That's right.
And it's really crazy to see. And my question to you, Nebula, also is that alongside what he was saying, how do you think, and I'm sure we have similar answers, but how do you think disclosure is going to happen? Because I feel like but like I want to see what you say.
All right. So thank you for asking that. It's a really important question. So I do have an answer. So disclosure is happening from every angle. It's not just the Congress. It's not just the whistleblowers. It's the aliens, it's the ETs making contact through dreams, them showing up in the sky. And I know some of you have probably noticed the commercials. There's been commercials that included UFOs, ETs, and movies. That's right, and shows. And
predictive programming.
Exactly. It's coming from all directions, and it has to. It can't be just one linear thing. It has to be, and it has to be systematically done in a way for people, like the momentum. You have to like keep the momentum up, because people have short attention span sometimes because of TikTok and other things. So they have to like do it at certain times and just keep like a little bit more, and it's a little bit more, and then boom, and then it just pops like a volcano.
Yeah.
So do we think?
Yeah, I agree. That's pretty much my answer.
What's your perspective? Because I know in the spiritual New Age community, just lack of better term at the moment, umbrella term, that there's a lot of belief that right now Earth is going through a dimensional shift or a density shift. Let's say from third to fourth. Okay, as Bashar said, I hear a lot of people talk about 5D. And as Bashar said, if you were in 5D right now, your physical body would be dead. So is all of this ramping up as far as the entities informing us and our development into more of a consciousness level? Is this because we're going into this change from, like, let's say 3D Earth to 4D Earth, and we're making that adjustment? Again, I've been thinking that evolution isn't going to be external. Evolution is internal. Okay, it's in our spirit being, it's in our soul. Okay, in our understandings. So what's your take on that as far as the dimensionality or the densities?
All right, so let's begin. So the reason that the Federation came in and continued altering our DNA after the Anunnaki created us, was to increase our evolution to the point where we stop evolving physically, right? And now we're almost to that point. Like you said, we're going to evolve spiritually. It's the next step. And the 5D is a real place. It can be described as like when you have an OBE, right? Or when you dream. It's almost like a dream world, but when you go there, it'll be real, like me and you, like here. But it'll be a different vibrational level, a different frequency. So if you was to go from that back to here, you would seem like a ghost to everyone here, or a spirit or something. But to us, we would be the same vibration. We would be like this, like me and you. So it's a perspective thing. And what's amazing and fascinating about all of this is that humans, all of you humans here on Earth, all of this whole experience is very unique and special, because not all the civilizations in our galaxy or the entire universe gets to experience this, because we were created into this family. We are being nurtured, and we have this opportunity to ascend, to experience this. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen everywhere else in the universe, but I'm saying it's probably very rare. And it's even more rare that we have our ET family here to help us along and protect us, and and all that. So it's a very amazing experience to be able to be alive at this time on this planet at this moment. And I think that's another one of the reasons I wanted to help humanity, is to see this happen, because it's so rare. It's just a beautiful, it's like a flower that only blooms once in a billion years. It's great. It really is.
Yeah, I agree with you too, because it's funny. Something Bashar said, actually, because somebody asked him a question, and he's like, yeah, like when we progress spiritually, that happens and there's that vibrational shift. He says, technically, there are times and moments where the veil kind of like thins in certain areas. He's like, to the people in the 1800s, a lot of times you are their ghosts in the 1800s, because they're in a different like spiritual mindset. They're in a different, they're at a different level. And it's just that kind of bleeding that happens where, we walk through and it may creep them out, but they don't understand the clothes that we're wearing, or, we look different. And Bashar has also described that where he's going, his civilization is going, is quasi-physical. So he's like, we're moving now into the fifth dimension. And he says, what you would call quasi-physical. And he says, I know that you guys kind of perceive us as ET beings living on a planet somewhere out in space that are walking around on the planet. And he's like, that's all well and good. And there's nothing wrong with thinking like that. But he says, that's not exactly how it works. He says, our reality is very dreamlike because things manifest very quickly and there's a lot of things going on. So it's kind of like what you were saying, that higher vibrational frequency, it's still a place, you can still experience it in kind of like a physical way, but it's different. So I agree with that. So that's pretty awesome. It's cool to hear you say it, because it's just like everyone's coming to these conclusions. Everyone that I know of coming to these conclusions themselves is pretty amazing.
I've also heard, just want to add to that last bit, was I've heard of people doing out of body experiences, like for example, in their house, and then they were making plans to add like rooms on and stuff like that, and then when they were projecting out of their body, they could actually walk in those rooms that they had already preset to build, like they had made plans and intentions towards.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't hear that.
So,
That's awesome.
Going off of that notion, like if you're like projecting out where you're not just 3D like reality, but like these like 4D aspect, there might be a lot more of that. What you set your intention, or what like direction you're wanting to go, like things just kind of go manifest, so to speak. Is a really interesting tidbit that I came across, and I was like, okay, that makes a bit more sense of what these NHIs are talking about, or just like for them, it's more of just a reality where they may need to push us a little bit harder of like, hey, we need to make this happen, where in their reality it's kind of like a switch like that. So it's just a really interesting tidbit to add to yours. So yeah, anyway.
I like that. Thank you. That actually reminded me of something from high school that I completely forgot about. So thank you for that. I had this friend, her name was Ariel, and she created a world in her mind, like a safe haven place, and I asked her, I was like, could I try to go into it? So I was doing this stuff in high school. I was doing things on and off, and I didn't realize what I was doing to an extent. But anyway, I asked her if I could like look into it, and she was like, "Yeah, you can go in there." So I went in there and I described it to her. I saw it. I completely forgot about that. That's funny.
That's cool.
That's amazing.
Cool. So since we're talking about, sorry, I keep going on about consciousness here. So as we're talking about,
I love talking about that.
It's wonderful. It really is. It really
is.
All
everything is, man.
That's right. But a lot of people don't realize that. And so that kind of that kind of comes along with my question / statement here. And I'd be interested to hear everybody else's perspective on this, even though most of us have already talked about this in one way, shape, or form. So we talked about disclosure, and that's good. We talked about consciousness again, which is really good, and about being emissaries. Okay, so here's my question, because there's social media. Social media is a great way to do things, right? As far as communication, it's the way we do things these days. How can we help in getting the message across that these entities are not demons, are not negative? Because we've had these things going on in Congress, okay, and everybody's been talking about, and then all of a sudden now media, when they do cover these things, if it's not like, hey, if Schumer's trying to pass this, it's always with the back burner of, well, they're trying to keep this a secret because you're going to be so shocked that they're mutilating humans and they're doing all these negative things. Okay, to put the fear back in there, because it's all fear-based, that aspect, in my opinion. So how, as emissaries and people that are starting, and because it never ends, as far as being aware of this consciousness, get the message across to people that may not have even taken the first step into realizing that this is nothing like all over nefarious? It's a big
Well,
question, I know.
it is. You're fine. I love big questions. So, there's going to be an event coming soon, and this also touches on the disclosure part again. The aliens, they're already here, but I always say they're coming, but they're already here. But the ETs are going to land. They're going to make public appearances, but after a certain amount of dream contact has been made, of course. But I think even after they land, people are still going to be in denial. You cannot convince everyone, and everyone is on their own path. We can't force them to understand. We can't force them to be in our reality, and that's okay. That's their path to learn and their path, So people who call them demons, it's mostly religious groups, and religious groups are set in their ways. You can't change them. You can't, unless they have an experience like an ET that goes to them and tell them, we're actually angels, or, ETs are angels and stuff like that. But even then, it's so hard because it's been beat into their brain since childhood, and you just can't fight it. You can't. I mean, all you could do is just forgive and just let them go on. But you don't have to keep interacting with them if you don't want to. But it's just their path,
And a message to those individuals that may think what I covered. Try to at least for a moment open your mind to the possibilities that fear is what is keeping you controlled. And I'm not talking about just rioting in the streets. I'm talking about your own individuality in coming to, yes, make your own determinations. I mean, I'm not here trying to convince anyone. I'm just saying, if you try to open your mind to all the vast possibilities and then come to your conclusion and what works for you, then you know that you're at least at that point in your life that you need to be at that moment. And I think that that's important because I definitely would not be where I am at today if I were to close my mind off and close experiences that I've had. Because when I open my mind and I open my soul, and I'm having more of these experiences, whereas denial, I'm not having any at all, because if I'm so closed, then I'm not going to be able to have contact in any way, shape, or form. And really, they're not going to have any desire to contact me in that way because I'm not ready enough yet. They're still waiting. And when it comes to something like that, I believe, this is just me, but I believe in that reincarnation or going into different bodies when you learn your soul lessons. They just realize that eventually you'll get there. It doesn't matter how many times it takes. We all will go back to source, or we'll all go back to the creator. And so, I mean, it's not a game. Don't rush into it. Just open your mind. But as far as what Nebula was talking about before, Daniel, kind of with the dreams and the contacts and stuff like that, I know that you've had quite a bit, and we all have been. And I wonder how many people in the audience, or that people that may watch this later, have had their own. I'm sorry, I go on a tangent, but have had their own experiences, but they're too afraid to speak about them because of backlash from their friends, family, or overall community. And I'd just like to say that I want to thank Nebula and Christian and GreyDruid for making themselves willingly available to have contact with others that have experienced things such as we have, because ignoring each other definitely does not solve anything as well. So I am here for anybody that ever wants to talk to me, and I feel that that's probably the same way for everybody else here.
Yeah. Yep, of course. To something you said, John, I actually recently watched, I'll share with you all too, a show podcast. It's called Exploring Life After Death with Tyler Henry, the medium. And he was on, it's the Ed Milet show, I guess. And I've seen him, but I've never really watched him that much. And it was very interesting because Tyler Henry is the Hollywood medium. He has a show and all that and books and stuff. But Ed on the show was saying he's like, I'm actually Christian, and he's had some experiences that is opening him up, even though he has like his religious background. And he said that he started to bring up like Tyler's stuff and some other medium stuff to some of the folks that he knows, like a priest in the religious community. And some of them are actually starting to open up. And it's cool to see that because everyone's at their own level of awareness, with like Nebula said, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're going to get there eventually. So there's no need to force or convince anyone. And it's just cool to see that they're opening up. You even have like, the Vatican opening up and that's going to start to, it's like a ripple effect. So it's going to start to get people in the religious community to start opening up little by little, everybody in their own, thing. But that's what I've noticed too. Like usually when the fear is involved, they back off. And then whenever someone's not fearing, they start to, when they open up, they start to make communication. And I also saw another podcast with Dr. Gary Nolan, scientist from Stanford, Professor Gary Nolan, with Ross Coulthart, which is a really good interview. And some of the folks that he knows and people he's mentioned, that there are people up there in government saying that they're demons and telling him that he shouldn't look into this. And he said, even if that was the case, he's like, even if that was the case, I want to know what they're doing. You know what I mean? So it's like, why should I not investigate? Just because they're demons, I should just completely ignore. Don't even look into this. Don't study this.
It's the
Case
whole
closed.
ignorance is bliss thing. It's the whole ignorance is bliss.
He's like,
Mom and Dad know better than you, and we're here to protect you. And don't worry about it. Just go to your 9 to 5, and die. And
100%.
it's
cool to
unfortunate, and it's on purpose. It's intentional. And the aliens, ETs, NHIs, however the term is at the time, are trying to tell us in very, very mild ways most of the time, because this is a huge impact on our society. And to just be like, hey, how you doing? Just without at least some kind of preparation would just, I don't know, a lot of people would just not take it right. Yes, it blow their mind. I mean, if one of my entities that I've been in contact with over the past couple years were to just suddenly appear into my room where I'm at right now, as with even as much contact as I'd have with them, that would be like, whoa, because surprise does not really work, right? Especially with humans. And so, so yeah, I mean,
we shoot first.
Yep. Daniel, can I ask you something?
Yes.
If you don't mind sharing with Nebula and for everybody else, just the message that you had, because Nebula had mentioned communion. Okay. No pun intended with the book there back on your shelf, which is a great book, by the way.
Wonderful book.
Whitley Strieber is not paying me for that.
Did you?
But
Nebula, did you finish that one, by the way?
I did.
Okay. Cool. Go ahead. Continue, John.
I'm gonna listen to the audio
But the
that you sent me.
but the message that that your contact had said to you, if you don't mind, just kind of expanding on that.
Yeah. So this happened 3 weeks ago now, maybe 2. I don't know. My sense of time is trash, but yeah. So I had heard that so John and Melissa were kind of going to do their thing, and the entities reach out to them. They're like, hey, we need to have contact. And then I was going about my day, and I had the kind of same feeling. And this was kind of whenever that alert pops up, where that there has to be, you need to do something, like you just kind of do it. So but in the evening, I laid down. My girlfriend was taking notes just to see how the experience was going to go. And then they started in the peripheral, like, of my mind, where they were telling me what to say. And then they eventually took over and were like forward. And so I have a lot of notes. Some of them are more just personal. They were wanting to approach. My girlfriend had worries about things, and that was her first thing of saying, "Hey, don't worry. Like Daniel's going to be okay. Like he's our family." And so it was really sweet of them to approach that, and they didn't have to do that, but that was the first thing that they wanted to talk about. But the when they started coming through, so it was at this point where I was, and it's funny too because again with this experience, I want to back this experience up. It wasn't just me; it's because John was dreaming about this while this was happening. So completely separate.
Wow.
1,000 miles away, he was having a dream, and I didn't tell him anything what I was doing. And you saw me convulsing and stuff. So, sorry about worrying you on that, but
That's okay.
but pretty much,
But they were speaking through you, and they were channeling through you. Mm-hmm.
Wait, you saw this?
No, I saw it while I was sleeping, but Dan, that's unimportant.
Oh, right.
That's unimportant at the moment.
I was like, you didn't tell me.
It's the message that they spoke through Daniel that is intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if
you don't mind.
Yeah. So they said there will be a lot more to do in the next 5 years to happen. 5 specifically. Connection was planned. It would have happened. Connection was planned. When it would happen was up to you. Disclosure of the others is happening no matter what. Integration on the spiritual into the physical needs to happen. And this was that was also another message I'd gotten the week prior, was that the integration aspect. I heard it super strong. And yeah, but when the integration part, I was in my body, I was not driving it, and I was almost yelling, or they were yelling it out, like announcing, so to speak.
Boasting, yes, projecting.
Yes. So, but yeah, so that was like the brunt of it. And I've explained all this to you guys, including you, Nebula. Like 2027 is a cool, interesting date to have. There's been multiple people talking about it, but I am wary.
Thanks for reminding me.
Wary about dates. Really, I have trouble with it because it feels like it feels like, don't worry, the rapture's coming in 2020.
Yeah.
And it's always like that's been always in the back of my head of like, it's really hard to. I'm always wary about it. So, but when they were saying 5 years to happen, I wasn't thinking about dates. I wasn't thinking about any of that. They were driving the information and speaking through me. So there's got to be something. There's got to be something to it. And and I'm saying this as I channeled them. I still have my reservations about 2027, but I find it very interesting that they were very, very forward about that. And so I just wanted to kind of go off of that. Nebula, have you heard anything along those lines, of that vein of like this kind of 5-year time strip, or like at least around these dates, that there seems to be a NHI driven contact event, possibly?
That's right. I'm going to answer your question, and then I'm going to have to go do a couple things, and then we'll come back. But so the 2027 has been mentioned by Bashar and a bunch of other people. I think 1 or 2 of them were government officials. I can't remember their names.
John Ramirez.
Yeah, John Ramirez. And there was another
former CIA.
Yep. So yeah, if you look at the connections, you make these connections, and all these people were saying this. But the Federation has told us that time, stuff changes, plans change. It all depends on the progress that they can make between now and then. But there is a time stamp limit for when they take away the, how do I say this without getting in trouble? The devices that cause harm to mankind. They're going to take away their toys. They're going to take away their bad toys, and they've been told they have a certain time limit before this is happening. And I think the shadow government and all of them are like, they're like, nah, we've got this. We can fight them. We can hide it or whatever. But no, you can't. They could just be like, boom, and evaporate it, you know?
Yeah. I've been saying to people, it's like trying to fight this, like what's happening is like trying to punch the waves from and trying to prevent them from hitting the shore. You can't fight the ocean. It's silly,
Yeah.
you know, and I remember you commented on my video. You're like, oh, I was going to post this because of like all the people
Yeah.
saying the 2026, 2027. And Bashar has said, and it's funny because Bashar has also at one point predicted the 9/11 event. I remember, I can't find the video anymore, but there was a video where he was talking about it before it happened. And he stated this time again, he's like, again, we don't like to give predictions because
Timelines.
based on your choices and energy, like it can change. The future's not set in stone. But he says when there is enough energy and momentum, collective consciousness, whatever you want to call that, where it's unlikely to change, then we can say something. And he said right now it's like a 90 to 95% unlikely to change scenario. And he mentioned that time frame right after I made that post. Talk about synchronicities. Right after I made that post, I was reading UFO of God by Chris Bledsoe. He's an abductee. He lives in North Carolina.
He's a wonderful human being.
Yeah, I love him. I hope if you ever watch this one day, I hope to have him on here. He's a beautiful person.
It'll happen.
And yeah, he stated that the woman, being that he was in contact with, had told him that Easter 2026, that's the understanding he was given, like Easter, around that time period is when a new knowledge would be released onto man. So I'm like, there goes that time frame again. I was like, if I knew, I would have put this in the video that I posted, and I was like, that was the same night that I had posted that video, and then I came across it. I was like, no fucking way. This is in the book. It blew my mind, but it's pretty.
I wanted
pretty
to
awesome.
add to just, and I don't know, Nebula, if you've gotten bits and pieces of information or data or just emotional clarity of their intention on your side of things, but I know with my entities that were channeling, so I initially asked, not that time when I was channeling, but it was weeks prior. I kind of was nervous about the bill, and I kind of, I could feel there was a communication open, and I asked them what's going to happen with that, and they kind of cut me off and were like, it doesn't matter. We've already said, well, like, to your government, like, what the time frame is, and they pretty much were like, we don't give two F's. Like, that was the intention. This is happening. Like, there was like, this is how it's going to go. And that was very prominent too through the channeling itself. It was not, again, it's not how do I explain, like, it's not like a negative intention or anything. It was just more of a stern, like, they've been given chances to disclose. They've been given chances by us many times, and we're taking the reins, so to speak. And there's a time frame. There's a cutoff.
So anyway, I think it all just really comes down to answering a call, giving a call, calling out. Again, a lot of it has to do with intention. And so my point is with the last with what we were speaking about beforehand is this. So when they're saying this time frame, which I do believe is our free will still has a lot to do with that, but it's how much are we calling? Like, we have the governments that have been keeping their presence as secret as much as they possibly can, with the exception of individual experiencers. But what is the overall vibration of humanity at the time on the planet? Are we mostly negative, or are we mostly positive? I propose that we're mostly positive, that there are many that feel lost, that they feel like things aren't in control. But it's not that they're praying to an external source for help, but they're just saying there's this awakening, at least, to there is more to life and existence than this. And in a way, there is this mass calling that's going out to these entity groups, whether it be the Galactic Federation or individualized groups. Okay. And that's why they say within this time frame, it's going to happen. Yes, the government, some of us may have made contracts with them and what you will, but it's the calling of the populace of Earth as a whole, and that making Earth its own living entity, which it is. Okay, so you go with the Schumann resonance and all of that stuff, and they can sense this, and it's not a threat, like Daniel said. It's not a threat of, hey, we're going to come down and we're going to rule you guys. Okay, it's more like it's time that humanity stops putting itself in this position of being fearful, afraid, in control, and we're going to help your consciousness level raise. That's why they give these time frames. Now, it could happen beforehand if the populace of humanity says enough is enough. Okay, or it may have to actually be like, as Nebula stated, them coming down and saying, here we are. But it will happen because it's not really in control of the government, etc. We just give them that control, and we can take it back at any point in time.
Yeah, Bashar has mentioned that too. He says that when he mentioned that event in that time frame, he said it's not going to wake everyone up, but he said it's a big UFO event of some kind. He's like, people, like Nebula was also saying, people are also set in their ways. But the people that are already, tuned into this, or, whoever's watching this on their spiritual journey, starting to really learn this stuff, it will resonate with them, and then they'll understand. So I agree. And did you want to say something, Daniel? Or?
I think if I could add something, I want to give you a glimpse of what it's going to be like. And we're going to be free. No more 9-to-5 jobs. No more fighting for survival and just going, retiring at 80 and then dying. No more of that. You're going to be able to live
free energy.
Yep, live longer, if not forever, as long as you want. Free energy, anti-gravity, replicators. It's going to be paradise. And, there are good and bad ETs. Even though Stephen Greer says there's only good ETs, I think there's good and bad everywhere in the universe. It's a duality. You can't have the good without the bad. And the Federation, they do a really good job at protecting us and keeping everything nice and cool, So I really am appreciative of them and what they do, and I am going to do my best. And whatever I got to do, I'm going to be up there with them. I'm going to join the Federation. I'm going to learn as much as I can and meet different civilizations and take the classes or whatever it is I have to do to learn. I'm going to do it. I'm going to help the Earth. I'm going to finish helping the Earth and transition better, and then I'm going to go off into the galaxy. I'm going to explore and just create and explore and just be as I'm supposed to be. And I just have this yearning, this feeling that I have to go and do amazing things, because I have so much ambition and so much energy inside of me. And I know I'm not the only one. A lot of you out there have this creative energy, this yearning for more. And yeah, we're going to be able to do that. Even if you just want to travel or cook or whatever, just do it.
Yeah, I've been told that, they're like, Chris, if a ship just showed up
like,
and they're like, "You got to get in, let's go." It's just like, "Yep, come on, let's do it."
yeah,
there's so much to see, and
yep, exactly.
yeah, and it's just such a big universe out there.
Yeah.
And like I would always be like watching people squabble over like trivial things, and it's just like even the fact that we have like a moon just like floating there, and I'm like, nobody finds that odd that you just have this orb just floating there? That's so amazing. Like, what else is out there? Like, I want to see like everything.
It should be.
And then we see all these beautiful nebulas, and it's crazy.
I'd like to bring something up on that. Sorry, go ahead.
Just real quick. I believe that it's every human being's right to, and this isn't about disclosure, which I believe it's every human being's right for that as well, but to go outside the atmosphere of Earth and look at it and see it, and how much that would change our entire civilization if every man, woman, and child could just go out there for 5 minutes and look down at this beautiful blue orb. It would change our perspectives, and we wouldn't be fighting so much about all these little petty things that they want to have distract us. It would just, even that in and upon itself would just be monumental, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think the best way to open people's minds, and this also comes from my friend Rowan, we talked about this, is that we have to look at God not like the Christianity version, but like try to get them to understand what God really is. God is you. God is me. God is the laptop we're using here, or whatever you're using, this laser. Every little tiny atom and little string, quantum field energy, all of it is God's source consciousness.
All that is.
That's right.
It's thought.
It's one big dream.
Makes up everything.
Everything comes from thought.
That's right.
Yeah. Jeff Tolley was actually one of the guests when I first started. If he ever sees this, thank you for joining. I hope you can do more with us. But he was talking about, he tried to kill himself. He took pills. He tried to inject himself. He said there was no trying. He's like, I was doing this. He was in a bad place in his mind and his life. And he said that to his surprise, he's like, oh my God, I'm not dead. Oh my God, I'm alive. And he said that death is like waking up from a dream, like the way we wake up from a dream and we're like, oh, that was just a dream I was having. This is my reality. He said death is similar in that way. And that we're in this dream. He said being here is it's more like a dead state because we're placing so many limitations upon ourselves. You know, manifesting is not instant here. Usually we have to go through the process, like we were talking about earlier. Like you have to get in a car to go to work. You have to walk to get somewhere. You have to take action. He said over there, manifesting is a lot quicker. It's instant. So you can imagine a cabin in the woods and then you're there. So just to that dream part, that I just wanted to say that because that is, I believe that beautiful. Too. We're this physical dream.
We are a dream within a dream. We're in a lucid dream. That's what we are.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's amazing.
So I'd like to say, if anyone out there has any kind of mental illness or anything neurological or anything like that, when you shift, when you go to the 5D and the new world, that's all gone. It's all good. You are just pure consciousness and just love, and like no more intrusive thoughts, no more whatever, it's just no.
It's a different
exactly. Your brain doesn't have to process your consciousness. You don't have all these conflicting things. You're just
yeah. Another way of putting it too is that a lot of these beings have already achieved states like that. So it's just like, they're kind of proof in the pudding.
That's right.
They can do it. We can do
it. Imagine that. I'm sorry, Nebula. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Go ahead.
Just real real quick, although I don't know if I know the definition of real quick. Just imagine us as a civilization reaching that higher density, okay, being more of the light being, okay. And since we've all established, and everybody knows this, come on, that the universe is beyond infinite. And so we're going to have planets out there that are going to have civilizations that are our scale now or less, okay. Not that we're at the pinnacle, it's just we've made that step beyond. And we communicate to that civilization
Exactly.
like the civilizations are communicating to us now. That gives me goosebumps. That makes me cry with not sadness, but happiness at the possibility that we as humans could be the next ones to where another civilization is going like we are now. Well, part of it's going, no, they don't exist. But then the contact that they have, that we have with some of theirs, they'll be pondering the same things. Because this isn't just an earthly experience. This is all across the beautiful universe. And so I think that we always think of things as short term because our lives are only 80 years or whatever the average is now. We need to start thinking about the long term and for the children and every other reason. But what is our purpose? And I found myself asking this. What are we, not the four of us, what are we as a civilization doing? Where are we going? I would like to suggest that that's where we should be thinking about where we're going. Okay. But the journey starts here. The journey starts here. Okay. And we can have assistance from that higher level. But just keep in mind, there's always going to be and a not bad, a lower level that we can eventually reach as well with communication.
Yeah.
That's right. I actually had a similar thought the other day about this, which is funny.
Oh, good.
I was like, the ultimate goal of a civilization, once you reach that point, is to go out and share these experiences and share the knowledge. We will be the UFOs in their skies.
Yeah.
And I think
Bashar,
Yeah.
the Ra.
it's beautiful. That's right. It's beautiful because, like, imagine it like branching out, like we help them and then they help them, and then we're spreading this love like throughout the universe. And I think that's how it's come to here. You know, the Federation came, they're like, and then they're sharing. It's just, it's beautiful. It really is.
It's a very
Thank you.
it's a very funny kind of similar pattern of you have somebody has kids and their kids grow up and then they have kids and it's this passing on of the torch, so to speak, and that's really a mirror of just the universe, and that's always evolving and trying to understand itself. So it's a very exciting time for all of us to be in here. And when we were talking with we had an interview with Grant Cameron, and he this was like, hey, you guys understand that you are the future of this movement and stuff. He's like, all of us old guys are just going to be passing on soon, and he's like, you guys are the ones that are going to be able to carry that out with something that is like, it's very real, with all the stuff that we've been having to go through, and third density reality, and that's really hard. Like, it's up to us to be able to have our experiences and everything, and be able to share with others, so they're able to get into a better spot mentally, where there's not just I'm my 9-to-5 job and then nothing else matters, right?
Yeah. Oh, since you and Nebula mentioned kids, but but since you and Nebula mentioned this with the no jobs, no more 9 to 5, Billy Carson has also touched on this, and I agree with him. He's like, imagine a world where we have jobs, but not jobs the way we see them now. It's about like who you are as a person.
Right.
Like, let's say you love video editing or you love to do something. You're everything for you is provided for because you're contributing to humanity and you're helping in that sense. So there's just equal give and take that you're providing. So there's no need for the structure that we have: middle class, lower class, upper class, and it's up to you where you want to go. Oh, I want to get on a ship, craft, plane, whatever we have at that point, to go to Europe to go do this thing. Cool, you can do that. There's no need to really pay for the plane because you're not spending energy to fuel the plane or whatever. You just get up and go because that's something you want to do. We don't have borders anymore where you can't go to this place or that place because you're an immigrant or what. It's ridiculous,
Yeah.
how humans are sometimes. But that it seems like a beautiful place, and I know it can seem far-fetched with the state of the world, but I honestly think that that's just all of this stuff happening right now is just the shadow work, like all of it coming up to the surface so we can deal with it, because where we're going, we can't do that anymore. So
That's a
what I
beautiful
think.
way to put that, shadow work as a whole. I love that.
Yeah. You have to take out the crap from under the carpet. It can't be under the carpet
That's
anymore,
right.
and we have to face it. And we have to, and a lot of times those things that we're facing are ugly things like war and racism and lack of love, fear.
Yep.
Pretty much there's fear and then there's love, so it's like there's that. So I think that's what it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we're starting to have more closer contact here, and I think more people are going to start seeing things that are open. Like just the other night, Ashley saw a light being. I talked about it on my TikTok and everything, but I didn't get to see it. It was just for her. But the fact being that there was literally a light being on my property here.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about that. That's pretty cool.
So yeah, just imagine what's to come. Like more contact, more things. It's just I'm so excited and so ready for this change. I was born ready. Like I have had ideas. I wanted to create things that I wasn't able to create because of resources and everything. But now when we get to that point, I'm going to do so much. I'm going to create things and help humanity and just, oh my God. And not just me, everyone. We're going to come together. We can form our own scientific teams or whatever you want to do. My heart just, I'm just giddy, I'm just so giddy inside.
Mhm.
And I want to touch upon this.
No, it is.
Love. Okay. Love is unfortunately, it's such a confusing word in human speech. Love, we put love to objects like I love my car, or I love my job, even though not many people say that. But then there's the loving of two people. There's loving of two people, and then there is something that I felt just a short while ago, maybe 5-6 months ago, and that was the love of essentially the universe. I had an entity, not talk about me, but I had an entity give me a hug that I've never felt before in my entire life, and that was through a channeling rod session, and I could feel it. The human body cannot contain nor express in our current form the amount of love that went throughout my entire body. It was light that could not be seen, but it was definitely felt, and it was a unconditional love to where I felt all of my frustration at the time, anger, hatred, sadness, grief that I had built up to that very period throughout my entire life get pulled away from me, or pulled off of me gently but strongly, like armor that I didn't need to have anymore. And during that time, the entity helped me realize that I didn't have to hold on to that anymore, that it had served its purpose in my survival up to that point, and that if I really needed to have that armor be put back on when dealing with others, I could do so. But it was not me. Does that make sense? It wasn't who I was. And I wept. I wept in joy and bliss for, I don't know, I can't even tell how long the time was. And Melissa was sitting on the other side of the room, and she looked at me, and she had the experience of meeting the universe one-on-one. Months before that, she looked at me, and with tears rolling down my face, she said, "I'm glad you know what it finally feels like." and that was life-changing for me. That was
Wow.
the entities speaking through the universe, giving me love. And every time that I communicate or we communicate with them, I reciprocate that love as much as I can as a third density being, and they understand. And I hope one day that I just wish that everyone could have that feeling and that experience, because as much as I've talked about it right now, still language, words verbally do not express the positivity and the love that I felt. And I say collectively with all of us here right now, I feel that love, but no disrespect. It's just that much, but it's more than without you all. And that of course includes you, Nebula. And I want to just thank you again for coming on here. I'm not cutting out or anything. I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing your experiences with us. And you're much needed for me today. And I just want to say that personally again.
Oh,
Thank you. I appreciate you.
you're very welcome. This is what I'm here to do. This is my calling. My yearning is to not just spread the knowledge about ETs and everything. It's to love, to show you love, to be there for you as much as I can, and sing for you and just help you.
That's what we need. Love is a higher vibrational frequency. Actually measured, they can like measure that, which is really really cool with scientific instruments. The frequencies of like someone's intention with love and then someone reacting to fear. Actually, yesterday when I was talking with Leslie from UAP Society and Hello Alley Discord and YouTube channels, I brought up Kirlian photography. And have you heard of Kirlian photography?
Is that where you put your hand or something and it creates like an aura around it? Or is that different? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Plants.
So the Kirlians discovered a way to take pictures of objects or even people, and it would actually show the aura energy field around these objects. And what was really fascinating is that if you had a leaf, let's say, and you cut the leaf in half, you can actually see the full leaf as if it was never cut to begin
Beautiful.
with, like fully there. And they asked people to imagine like the person next to them, like loving intentions as much as possible and all that. And you could see the energy, like a beautiful, vibrant color, like interweaving. And then they asked them to imagine like hatred or resentment or whatever towards the other person. And you could see like an energetic, like actual wall that you could see that was like blocking the energies from intermingling, which is really fascinating. And the colors were like a darker, like kind of not pleasant to look at kind of color, which is really cool.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of the chromatic one, but yeah, I'm gonna look into that one. That's nice.
Yeah, you can actually YouTube the video, like Kirlian photography, and then you'll find it where they were running the tests.
Interesting.
And stuff, which is really cool.
So I want to.
Yeah, science is catching.
Nice. So I want to touch on something real quick, and it goes along with my theory of reality. So the perfect example of reality itself is a tree. And when I remote view other alien worlds, like I've been doing, I see tree structures, fractals, spirals, and spheres are universal structures throughout universe, the multiverse, and all of reality. So if you look at a tree, like here on Earth, it has layers, right? There's layers, and then there's water running through it, and there's leaves that branch out. All of these things are blueprints for reality itself. Reality is layers. It's also branching, and we are the leaves on the end of that. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that fractals are also a good way to understand the nature of the universe. That it's the macrocosm mimicking the microcosm. And in one of the podcasts I was listening to with Medium, I'm trying to remember his name now, but brain fart. But either way, he was saying that if we want to see a change in the outer world, and Bashar says this too, we have to start changing within ourselves internally, and then that reflection will then change.
That's right.
So the macrocosm, microcosm.
And if you
so that applies to us
you
as
look
well.
at the one of the largest structures just theoretically exist, like
Yeah.
the Great Attractor and all of that, it looks like branching trees. Like imagine this.
Yeah, it does.
Like imagine it like this. Like this is the full thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just keeps going. It just keeps
the word
going.
tree.
Tree of life.
I think that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, tree of life. I've actually had a vision of that in a dream with someone who had passed away, and an ex's mother had shown up, and I saw this tree, and it was glowing white, like the one you were showing, but just white. It had like this aura around it too, which is weird. And it had no leaves on the branches, but it had like vines going all around it. And on the vines were these like beautiful white flowers with white petals. And like and it had this glow. And in front of that tree was my ex's mom who had passed away. And there were like two children running around. And I told her as soon as I woke up, I was like, I have to tell her. I texted her at like 3 a.m. and I told her about it. And she's like, what about the kids? And I was like, why does that matter? I'm telling you about your mom here. And she's like, that her mom had lost two children. So that's why I was like,
Wow.
oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I saw two kids playing in the background, but I was just focused on
Wow.
her because I was that tree was it just draws you in. Like when you see something like that. And to make it more interesting, I tried to research to find any trees that looked similar if I could, because I know that tree doesn't grow here, but anything similar that had vines like that would grow here. And the closest that I found is the Bodhi tree, which the Bodhi tree is actually said to be the tree that Buddha achieved enlightenment in front of. It's also known as the world tree, the tree of life, the mana tree, the tree of mana, the tree of life and death. And I was like blown away because it was like weird because I didn't know that. I had to go look for that, So that's what
That
blew
is
me away.
profound.
And I was like, that's
Wow.
amazing.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. And how are you on time here too?
Oh, you're good. Let's see. At like 9 more minutes, I gotta go pour the rest of his coffee. I have to do Ashley's routine because she's in town, so I have to go pour the rest of his coffee and creamer in his cup. Then I come back, and then I have to take Barry out at 7, and that's like in about an hour from now. And I guess we'll have to end it by 7. So yeah, it's 5:53 now.
I mean,
Unless they come home earlier, and then we'll have to end it.
We're not getting away without Nebula singing.
Anybody else have any?
Yeah, I know you were about to say that. I knew you were about to say that. I felt that. I felt your energy right before you said that. I was about to say, yeah, I was going to sing for you guys. So I'll go ahead and sing now in case we get interrupted. So let me mute real quick and warm up my voice.
Oh, no problem.
But a lot of people think I'm doing this to get attention or an ego thing. It's not. I'm just sharing my experiences, and I think that's what they want me to do. That's why they've been showing up for me. They want me to share it. They want me to let people know, because I have this energy and this momentum inside of me, and it's like I'm helping humanity, and that's what I'm here to do. So yeah. Anyway, let me go ahead and sing you some song, a song. This is called this type of music is called light language. So it's the language from source consciousness itself. You cannot learn the specific language like word to word because every song is like a snowflake and there's different dialects. So I've learned my music in past lives, like siren past lives, mainly the siren ones, and on other planets and other dimensions, like another like literal mermaid music, in combination with some other past lives. But anyway, it comes from the soul, from source consciousness itself. So you have to listen with your heart and not your ears. Okay? So just relax, and here we go.
Thank you.
Sayana Sano Sa.
Thank you. Wow, the range. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
That was beautiful.
Nebula.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I could feel it.
Takes me a minute to
Yes.
come back. I'm like, it's like I've become a higher self, and I'm just like in that blissful state.
It reminds me of this Celtic. Like I didn't understand what they were saying, and when I listened to the Celtic music, but it resonates
exactly.
You know? And
I've actually.
And that's the beautiful thing about music too. It's just that you don't really need to understand
exactly
universal language.
That's funny because I've actually had Celtic past lives, Nordic past lives, and that's where I get a lot of this energy and different dialects from. I can actually do a siren dialect for you if you'd like. You ever hear a siren song before?
I can't say I have.
I haven't.
All right.
No, just these.
All right. So let's do it. Relax and listen.
Bravo. Thank you.
Put that in. We have to put. You ever thought of like recording or anything like that? You could put that in like FL Studios or something too, and then put some tribal. I've
actually done that. I have some music on my YouTube channel. If anybody wants to check it out, I guess we can put it in the description below, and we'll just put my link tree in there, and all my stuff is in there. So if you want to check out my music, you can go to my YouTube channel.
Let's play some of that in some metaphysical shots.
Put up on the screen.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, maybe a more calmer, quieter one, but yeah.
Depends on
you
the
could
purpose.
Put where to find. I'll put where to find you on the screen too.
I appreciate that.
Your TikTok, YouTube channel.
So let me see if there's one more thing that I need to cover. I feel. Let's see. So I know I've been telling the Federation that I'm going to remain calm no matter what they do, no matter what happens, if they come down and land, and, if whatever happens, I've been telling them I'm going to remain calm, and I'm still working on that. It's just very exciting, who wouldn't be excited? But I don't think they want me to have a heart attack. So I have to work on myself and remain calm. And I think I'm doing better. I really am, because when I see UFO now, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not like, oh my God. I'm more like, hey guys, you can come down, come closer. And in the meantime, I'm just like, but it's a balancing act of the excitement and everything. But they want us to remain calm and just not, have heart attacks or anything. They want us to be healthy and stay calm. But I want to leave y'all with a message. I know we've talked about it before, but understand that you are love. You are love. You're made of love, by love, for love. And it's not a love that you have for your girlfriend or your dog or anything that you have in life. It's a love that goes beyond, that cannot be spoken into words. It could be sang a little bit with light language, but still, It's a love that cannot be quantified. It has to be experienced. You can't describe it. You are all this love, everything, all of existence. You are all source consciousness experiencing itself. So treat others as you would treat yourself. Remember that your thoughts affect the ones around you in your life, your path, the timeline jumping. It affects everything. And I know we're all having these human experiences. I'm in this body, I'm in this human experience. Even if I am broadcasting down, I'm having to process information with this human brain or this hybrid brain. And emotions are hard to handle. And I understand that. You have to be patient with yourself. Forgiveness, 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 not only for others, but for yourself. And we will make mistakes, and that's okay. That's part of the process. It really is. So forgive yourself and just know that everything's going to be okay. As long as you have that love and that good intention in your heart, everything's going to be okay. And I can't wait for the future.
Thank you, Nebula.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. And that's all for today, guys. And I'll catch you guys on the other side.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys. Much love.
Bye. Thank you.